be a powerful tool. Its technical value is clear, but its symbolism runs deeper.
Hello everyone. What if I told you that a 1,000-year-old temple could ignite a war in 2025? That a dusty border drawn in colonial ink more than a century ago is once again spilling blood in Southeast Asia? Well, believe it or not, that's exactly what's happening. Right now, Thailand and Cambodia are locked in one of the most dangerous standoffs the region has seen in over a decade. On July 24, 2025, Thai fighter jets launched airstrikes against Cambodian positions. At least 11 Thai civilians, including an 8-year-old boy, lost their lives. Thousands had to flee their homes. Cambodia immediately called for an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. But the real question is, how did it come to this? Why are ancient temples, unexploded landmines, and a leaked phone call pushing two modern nations to the brink of war? Because this conflict is not just about land. It's about colonial wounds, it's about national pride, and it's about political survival. And today, we break it all down. Let's get to the real story behind the headlines. To understand what's happening today, we have to go way back. Not just a few decades, mind you, but over a few hundred years ago. The year is 1907. Cambodia is under French colonial rule, and like many colonial powers, the French redrew the map, handing over the sacred Preah Vihear temple and nearby highlands to Cambodia. No drones, no surveys, no consent from the people, just lines drawn in faraway offices with ink that still bleeds. Thailand, then known as Siam, strongly disagreed. But they were powerless. The colonial pen had spoken. Then in 1954, as France pulled out of Indochina, the big question returned. Who really owns the Preah Vihear temple? By 1962, the case went to International Court of Justice, or ICJ. And the ICJ ruled that the temple structure belonged to Cambodia. But, and this is the key, the ruling did not address the land around the temple. Thailand accepted the verdict, but on paper. But in the hearts of many Thais, the judgment felt like daylight robbery. And that sense of betrayal simmered year after year. So, ladies and gentlemen, over the next 50 years, that resentment turned into a militarized standoff. Landmines were planted, bunkers were built, soldiers patrolled jungle borders around the temple ruins, because in this part of the world, ancient temples are not just historical relics, they are symbols of civilizational pride. And when two nations claim one monument, with each feeling betrayed by history, all it takes is a spark. And that spark came in 2008. So in 2008, UNESCO granted World Heritage status to the Preah Vihear temple. But here's the twist. It recognized Cambodia, not Thailand, as the official custodian. The response in Thailand, well, of course, everyone was outrageous. Troops were deployed, Cambodia retaliated, soldier for soldier, inch for inch. What followed from 2008 to 2011 was not just diplomatic tension, but real combat. Gunfire, shelling, grenades, civilians evacuated, soldiers killed, even parts of the temple were damaged by artillery. But beneath all that gunpowder was a political game. Thai politicians used the border crisis to fuel nationalism, yes, to defend the motherland. In Cambodia, Prime Minister Hun Sen used the standoff to boost his image as a defender of national dignity. In the end, soldiers died while politicians gained popularity. Because deep down, both sides knew While the temple legally belongs to Cambodia, the land around it is still up for debate. And in 2025, that unresolved issue came back to life. So let's take a closer look. On July 24th, 2025, the border lights up, but this time it's different. This time it's not a small exchange of fire. The Thai Air Force launched full-blown airstrikes across the frontier. Over 11 civilians dead, including children. Hundreds injured, thousands displaced. Thailand called it retaliation, Cambodia called it an act of war. And within hours, Cambodia turned to the United Nations Security Council. And then came the leak. A phone call between a Thai military commander and a hardliner politician with lines like, "Now or never," and "Let's teach them a lesson." So what is this? A coordinated military operation or a political distraction? Because here's what makes 2025 different. This is not the same Thailand and Cambodia we saw in 2008. Both are now facing internal political crisis. In Thailand, public protests have rocked the government. The military is desperate to reassert dominance. In Cambodia, with Hun Sen's long reign coming to an end, a power vacuum is forming. And whenever things get shaky inside, leaders do look outside for enemies to blame. What better rallying cry than a 1,000-year-old temple? But this time the world is watching, because this is not just a local border issue anymore. This is regional geopolitics in motion. So let's be clear, this is not just about a religious monument. The Priya Vihiha temple sits atop the Dangrek Mountains, a ridgeline with tactical military value. Whoever holds it controls the high ground, a strategic vantage point over the plains below. In military terms, this is called a commanding height. But it's also symbolic. To Cambodians, it's a remnant of their ancient Khmer Empire. To Thais, it's a wound inflicted by foreign courts and colonial betrayal. And there's more. This area is still filled with landmines, remnants of decades-old conflicts. Even a single misstep, literal or diplomatic, can trigger a deadly blast. And with military outposts just meters apart, no buffer zones, no peacekeepers, the tension is always one bullet away from catastrophe. This is not just territorial friction. This is a high-stakes chessboard of pride, memory, and misplaced power. And now enters the rest of Asia. You would expect ASEAN, the regional bloc, to intervene. But ASEAN follows a policy of non-interference, which means even if two members are on the verge of war, we do not interfere. This silence creates a power vacuum, and China has been quick to fill it, investing in Cambodia, offering military aid, and expanding influence. So when Cambodia cries out for help, guess who listens? Yes, China. Meanwhile, Thailand leans on its time-tested military ties with the United States. And now, this temple standoff is turning into something much darker, a potential proxy conflict with China and the US on either side. India is watching too, with its own Indo-Pacific ambitions and trade routes passing through this region. This is not just Thailand versus Cambodia anymore. It's a microcosm of the new Asian order. So where does this go? Ladies and gentlemen, there are three possible outcomes to this. The first would be diplomacy. ASEAN finally steps up. International observers are deployed. The area is demilitarized. Second, escalation. More airstrikes, more bloodshed, global powers get involved with strings attached. And third is stalemate. A long, uneasy silence, no peace, no war, just a generation raised on fear and nationalist propaganda. As of 28 July 2025, there is a ceasefire agreement between the two countries, but no one knows which future will unfold. Because this is not just a battle for land, it's a battle over memory. And unless that memory is confronted, with honesty and diplomacy, this region will keep rewriting its story in blood. Because when borders become emotions and monuments become weapons, it's not just geography that's lost, it's humanity. And if this story moved you, share it, because these are the stories we do not hear enough of, but they shape our world. Because conflict is inevitable, but context decide who wins. Thank you and bye.